The wind howled over the open fields as dusk settled across the quiet valley, wrapping the small wooden farmhouse in the kind of loneliness only a widower could understand. Ethan Cole stood by the barn door, his hands rough from years of work, his heart still tender from the loss of his wife 2 winters ago. Inside, the faint sound of his daughter Lily's laughter echoed, a sound that had become the only light left in his dim world. He had spent every day tending the land, mending fences, fixing roofs, and fighting the hollow silence that followed him like a ghost. That evening, as rain began to fall and lightning flashed across the distant hills, Ethan noticed a figure walking slowly down the muddy road, a bent old woman with silver hair sticking to her wrinkled face, her dress soaked through, her steps trembling with exhaustion. She paused by the fence, shivering, her eyes filled with something ancient and sorrowful. Ethan, cautious but compassionate, called out, "Mom, you'll catch your death in this storm." The woman looked up, her voice cracked yet kind as she whispered, "I just need a dry corner, son. A place to rest till morning." Ethan hesitated. He had no room inside the house, and though his heart urged him to show kindness, the world had taught him to be wary of strangers. But when Lily peeked out the window and asked, "Daddy, can she stay?" something in him softened. He led the woman to the barn, spread an old blanket over a haystack, and handed her a mug of warm milk. The woman thanked him with eyes that glimmered strangely in the lantern light and said softly, "Kindness never leaves empty hands." Ethan nodded, pretending he didn't understand, and left her to rest. Yet that night, he couldn't sleep. Through the window, he saw faint candlelight flickering inside the barn, though he hadn't given her one. Curiosity tugged at him, and he stepped outside, careful not to wake Lily. As he opened the barn door, he froze. The old woman sat cross-legged in the straw, her hands hovering over a small wooden carving of a mother and child that Ethan had made years ago. She whispered words he didn't recognize, soft, melodic, and full of sorrow. The carving began to glow faintly, and Ethan's heart pounded. He rubbed his eyes, thinking fatigue was playing tricks on him. But when she looked up and met his gaze, her eyes shone brighter than the lantern flame. "Go back to sleep, Ethan Cole," she said gently. "You've carried too much pain. Let the morning bring what it will." Something in her tone made him obey. He turned and walked back, his mind swirling with questions. The rain faded into a gentle drizzle, and when dawn broke, the valley shimmered under golden light. Ethan woke to the smell of freshly baked bread, a scent that hadn't graced his home since his wife died. Startled, he rushed to the kitchen and found Lily humming softly, a loaf of steaming bread on the table. "The lady made it," she said, smiling. "She said it's for us." Ethan hurried to the barn, but the blanket was neatly folded, the place spotless, the woman gone. Only the carving remained, now smooth and warm as if touched by sunlight. Confused, he looked around until his gaze fell on the field outside. Rows of wilted crops that had refused to grow for months now stood tall and green, heavy with life. His breath caught. The old woman's words echoed in his mind. Kindness never leaves empty hands. He felt something shift inside him. Hope, perhaps, or faith. Whatever it was, it filled the hollow places in his chest. That night, he sat by Lily's bed, watching her sleep, and whispered a prayer he hadn't spoken in years. He didn't know who the old woman was or how she had changed the land overnight, but he knew this: he would never again doubt the power of a single act of compassion. The next morning, he found something else, an old silver pendant hanging on the barn door, engraved with the words, "For the one who still believes." He held it tightly, unaware that his life, his home, and even his broken heart were about to be transformed forever. For days after the mysterious woman vanished, Ethan Cole lived in a quiet awe he could not explain. The farm, once dying beneath the weight of drought and despair, now thrived like a living miracle. The crops ripened early, the animals grew strong again, and for the first time since his wife's death, Ethan heard laughter echoing freely through the farmhouse, not the kind that hid pain behind it but the genuine sound of life returning to broken walls. Yet behind that joy, Questions haunted him: the woman's glowing eyes, the bread, the pendant with its strange engraving. Sometimes, at sunset, he thought he saw her shadow near the fence line, watching him as he worked the soil, and every time he blinked, she was gone, leaving only the scent of wild lavender on the wind. One evening, about a month after her visit, Lily fell ill. A fever burned through her small body, and no medicine seemed to cool her. Ethan stayed by her bedside all night, whispering prayers, his hands trembling as the memories of losing his wife clawed at his heart. "Don't take her too," he pleaded to the empty room, tears streaking his face. He held the silver pendant tightly, as if it were a lifeline to whatever mysterious force had once shown him mercy. Near midnight, when the oil lamp flickered low, he heard a soft voice outside the window. "Ethan Cole," it called gently, like wind through the wheat. He rushed to the porch, and there she was, the old woman, standing beneath the moonlight, her shawl glowing faintly in the silver beams, her eyes ageless and kind. "She's slipping," Ethan cried. "Please, if you can help." The woman raised a wrinkled hand to silence him. "Every soul has its path, but love can light the way," she said. She stepped past him, entering the room where Lily lay trembling and pale. Ethan watched as the woman placed her hand upon the child's forehead and whispered the same melodic words he had heard that stormy night in the barn. The air filled with warmth, and a faint golden glow spread from her fingertips across Lily's small frame. The child sighed, her breathing steadying, the fever fading like mist under morning sun. Ethan fell to his knees, overcome with gratitude and disbelief. "Who are you?" he whispered, voice shaking. The woman smiled, her eyes glistening. "Once, long ago, I came here as a stranger, hungry and lost. Your wife gave me bread and a roof for the night. When she passed, I felt her sorrow from afar. I came again, not as a beggar, but as a messenger of her love." Ethan's breath caught. My wife." The woman nodded softly. "Love never dies, Ethan. It simply changes its form. She sent me to remind you that kindness binds souls across worlds." Tears streamed down his face as he realized the truth. His act of compassion had called forth the very spirit his heart had been aching for. "Why me?" he asked, broken and trembling. "Because you still believed in goodness, even when life stripped you bare," she said, touching his hand. "Your wife's heart lives in your kindness, and your daughter will carry it forward." Then, before his eyes, her form began to shimmer, fading like morning fog. "Wait," he cried, "don't go yet. Please, let me thank you." The woman smiled one last time. "You already have." And with that, she vanished, leaving only the faint glimmer of light and the scent of lavender in the air. The next morning, the farm was more alive than ever. Lily woke laughing, her eyes bright as spring skies. In the barn, Ethan found something resting on the hay, where the woman had slept months before, a second pendant, smaller, shaped like a heart, engraved with the words, "Where love is given, life returns." From that day on, Ethan no longer feared the silence of the nights. He spoke to the stars as if they carried her voice, worked his fields with peace in his chest, and told Lily stories about the old woman who had come to their barn one stormy night and changed everything. Years passed, and people said the Cole farm was blessed. No matter the season, the crops thrived, the animals prospered, and joy never seemed to leave the place. And when travelers stopped by asking for shelter, Ethan always opened his doors wide, repeating the words that had once saved his own soul: "Kindness never leaves empty hands." One autumn evening, many years later, when Lily was grown and Ethan's hair had turned silver, he sat on the porch watching the sunset. A gentle breeze carried the scent of lavender once more, and for a moment, he thought he saw a familiar figure standing by the barn, smiling, peaceful, eternal. He closed his eyes, a tear of gratitude sliding down his cheek. "Thank you," he whispered to the wind. And in the fading light, the pendant on his chest glowed softly, like a heartbeat from another world, proof that love, once given freely, never truly dies. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales of hope, love, and miracles, because sometimes, one act of kindness can change an entire life. Red Heart.